Viewers, they're going to come for us. And now that we've made contact, they're going to come after you too. Who are they? They came from the silver screen. Hi, I'm Josh. You're listening to the second season of They Came from the Silver Screen. It's a film discussion podcast. Each week we take one film and we get into it, its cultural relevance, and the social issues that surround it. With me, as always, is Damian. Damian, how are we today?
I'm good, man. We're back, baby.
Welcome back. We're back.
We're back. Extended hiatus. Old school hiatus, man, but we're back.
Yeah, so we've, as we said in the last episode, Ghostbusters, I took some time out of the country. It was for no reasons of national security or anything like that. I was just of course that's
what you're gonna say, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and the people of Mongolia opened me with welcomed me with open arms.
They opened you with welcome arms, perhaps?
I mean, they did. It was uplifting.
I'm not even going to ask exactly how they opened you, but
we don't have to get into that.
I think that is an issue of national security, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But never actually go into detail on that.
Yeah, went to Mongolia, Japan. Saw the sights, enjoyed myself thoroughly, and we're back, and we're ready to get back into it. And
timely indeed, because we are shaping up for a very interesting next few months leading into the awards season. Obviously, lots of cool movies coming out, lots of very fucking interesting ones as well. So to get right back into it, land on the ground with our feet, hit the ground running, so to speak, platitudes, synonyms, similes, etc. We have decided to choose Snowden, the new biopic from writer-director Oliver Stone. Yeah,
and Oliver Stone, most famous for Platoon, Wall Street, and JFK, and probably his most famous biography of a single person, or at least the events surrounding the assassination of JFK.
Certainly, and then Nixon bringing up a close runner-up there as well, one of his all-time great films. Other efforts, Natural Born Killers. Mm-hmm. His interviews with what's his name, Cuban guy?
Oh, Castro.
Castro, yes.
Yeah.
Did interviews with Castro. Did interviews with Chavez, the Venezuelan leader. So he's been around a lot. And then recently he's been very, very, very boring.
Yeah, he kind of hit a slump. When he did, I think most notable for me was when he did W.
Yeah.
The biopic about George W. Bush, played by Josh Brolin.
Yeah, two amazing effects. It was a brilliant performance, but just the movie itself was just nothing of the fire and brimstone that Stone was known for, and that I think a lot of viewers kind of hoped he would bring to this biography, that he would just go hammer and tongs and take this guy apart, like he did with Nixon, with Anthony Hopkins in the role, how he did with his Vietnam movies like Platoon, like Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah,
things like that. And
Wall Street, he ripped apart the Wall Street itself, and
then Wall Street 2. Yeah, I mean, like, the whole problem was that Wall Street, in its indictment of the fabulism of the culture, actually inspired an entire generation of Gordon Geckos.
Yeah, which is it's crazy. But yeah, so Snowden, directed by Oliver Stone, written by Kieran Fitzgerald and Oliver Stone, stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the titular Edward Snowden, and it actually has a fairly good cast. It's got Tom Wilkinson, Rhys Ifans, Zachary Quinto, Melissa Leo, Shailene Woodley.
All look very much like their actual characters. It must be said. I mean, they did very well. I mean, Melissa Leo and Laura Poitras, are basically the same. Zachary Quinto and Glenn Greenwald, they basically look the same. Wilkinson and Ewan McCaskill, yeah, exactly the same. Like, they did very well.
They did really well, and
and Levitt himself, it must be said.
Yeah, Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, he does. He does, particularly in the hotel scenes. Looks very much like him, because there is such a bounty of of information. But even like in the cast, like, you know, Timothy Olyphant and surprisingly Nicolas Cage, like very small roles.
Yes, but also like it must be said, just to, you know, just to go like to step aside for a second, actually comment on Nicolas Cage in a movie that is actually, I don't know, of some kind of cultural worth. You know, surprisingly subdued and reserved performance, which are words that you really don't usually actually associate with this man and his acting, at least in recent years.
Yeah, well, he recently, you know, previously he was in Stone's film World Trade Center.
World Trade Center, yes.
Yeah. So he actually did this as a favor to Stone, this role. And it's, yeah, I was delightfully surprised in seeing him. I didn't realize he was in this.
I did, but I just wasn't sure exactly how big the part was going to be. But it's actually a charming small role where he mentors Snowden and plants the seed of, well, not revolutionary per se, but certainly the whistleblower that he was going to turn into, the man whose morality actually, you know, comes to a nadir where he realizes that you can be patriotic towards your country without actually approving of what your country does, which is, I think, the crux of what the film is actually about, him reconciling those two facts together.
Cage's character was, you know, loosely based on William Benning, original NSA whistleblower. Let's get into the plot of it. Snowden is about, you know, the biography of the events of Edward Snowden, the most recent NSA whistleblower. This is one of those biographies that we are actually alive to be a part of. This only happened back in 2013, so it's a fairly recent sort of biography.
It is incredibly fresh, and it's curious, you know, about you know, because a movie in a way is often you know, a snapshot in time, and to establish the reality of a film like this, and then because the point is, where do you end it? Because obviously
there's no ending.
There is no ending at the moment, and it's a interesting sort of, I wouldn't say it's an anticlimax, but it leaves you without a true resolution, in a sense, in the same way that you know, W kind of left you without a resolution, because it was like, you know, he was a shitty president, but he also just wanted to please his dad, or what happens next? Well, we don't know because it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. You know, which is a fault also, I guess, with not to go into Assange too much, but, you know, the Fifth Estate, again, that's a story that is ongoing and has no end to it, which is the same thing with Snowden. So, I mean, to have the film conclude with, you know, he got the message out there, the end, question mark?
Yeah. You know, and we're feeling the effects, you know, just, well, the Freedom Act, the US Freedom Act changed back in June 2015.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
So these are really and that was to do with the Snowden leaks. You know, now we're aware of just how much we are surveyed by governments, whether it be ours or foreign governments. And it's a really, it was a nice end.
But it's a curious you know, exercise to choose to interdisperse, you know, the events in Hong Kong in 2013 with you know, his backstory. And obviously we know, like, you know, the backstory was going to happen, biopic, everything like that. Gives you a moment to actually, well, I think, I mean, like, Stone, you know, says that he doesn't have a mandate or, you know, an intention like in his biopics or anything like that. But I think if he wanted to just present, this is the facts, this is what happened without judgment sort of movie, he wouldn't have done the personal stuff, because all the, you know, him rising through the ranks, him having his patriotism tested, you know, not being able to serve, choosing CIA, you know, meeting, you know, his girlfriend and everything like that. That's all humanizing stuff.
Yeah, it's all flavor to the character.
Exactly. And so it gives you, you know, an insight into him and to why, you know, he did what he did beyond the sort of abstract notion of patriotism.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that kind of is, you know, brought up is that he he's kind of like he had it all. He was, he had a loving relationship. He lived in Hawaii. He was making obscene amounts of money, and he threw it all away. That's kind of one of the things that popped up, a couple of times in this, and then in subsequent interviews with Stone and other people, to kind of show that it is a truly altruistic act that he is doing. Because
he makes the statement that he's not in it for money or any kind of financial remuneration. This is about getting the information out there. And
which is one of the things that polarizes people so much, that he's either, Snowden, the man, is either the hero for putting out these leaks and letting the public know, letting the public have control over what they know. But other people believe that it is that he is a traitor, that he gave these secrets out as some sort of nefarious plot against the nation of the United States. And it's still hotly contested by many people.
Yeah, although to be fair, I'd argue, that it's far easier to hate Assange than it is to hate Snowden. Snowden makes it very difficult for you to actually paint him as some sort of espionage spy selling state secrets, for personal gain or anything like that. The sheer unabashed altruism that he's brought forth, the fact that he's didn't hide in the shadows, was very much front and center. I want to be the target so that no one else will get hurt. This is an issue for the good of the public. And then you sort of mirror that with the kind of God complex that Assange kind of has.
As showboating.
Exactly. Just the sheer theatricality of it all, and the brazen arrogance that I am dumping this information out into the ether because I can.
And dumping it with just literally just dumping
without
it
the kind of
without oversight
and ethical checks that Snowden insisted that the Guardian and other news organizations took part in before giving them control.
Yeah, which is it does. Assange, and and not to mention the fact that Assange does have various other allegations against him.
Yeah.
That do demonize him
exactly
and make him an easy person.
He has a lot
to dislike,
a lot of dirty laundry, whereas Snowden he's just a white collar kid that wanted to be a soldier, and that's about it. I mean, it's.
Yeah, he wanted, his family was, from, his father was part of the Coast Guard. Snowden was, I believe, a security guard in the beginnings of things after his stint with the National Reserve. So he's, he has been a very, one would say a patriot.
It's curious,
he wants to see himself as a patriot. And he's tried to model himself to continue that sort of thing throughout his life.
If anything, he sort of to me, he kind of he mirrors the journey of Ron Kovic, the main character in Born on the 4th of July, played by Tom Cruise, another Stone biopic, and may I say, phenomenally underrated as a film and also as a lead performance. But it mirrors that same kind of, this is an all-American that just wanted to serve his country because, through his upbringing and then just through his own personal, beliefs, stood that this was the right thing to do, and then got to see Behind the Veil, which coincidentally was the name of the song that Peter Gabriel wrote for the ending credits of Snowden. These are both men that saw behind the veil of what these countries were actually doing behind the glitz and the glam and the televised awesomeness of going to war or doing cyber warfare. So I mean, by the end of the movie, he's a long cry from thinking, that having unrestricted access would be really cool.
Yeah, it's a burden that the person and the character portrayed by Gordon-Levitt shows. That he's he knows that this is information that is important to make lives better or worse.
It is a curious performance because Snowden, as just an actual person, is, as you've seen in interviews, and if you've watched viewers the Lawyer Poitras documentary Citizen 4, which you absolutely should, won the Academy Award for Best Documentary at the 2015 Oscars, and Poitras herself features in the film. It's
played by Melissa Leo.
Indeed. He is an incredibly unflappable man. Takes a lot of horrible things in his stride, and so it's a curious character to try and portray and humanize and actually demonstrate a measure of growth and development. These changing ideologies, these moments where his views and his goals and aspirations change.
Yeah, well, so like at the start of the film, when he does become part of the CIA training, he is very bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, for lack of a better word, about what he's being told, and what he is told is he believes is the truth. That it is purely targeted information that is being gathered through legal means. Even though those means are
legal in
not seen,
commas, I'd say.
Yeah, and they bring it up that it's the hidden courts, the secret courts of FISA. People do have warrants out to seize information, but they'll never see it because it's classified.
Yeah.
And he does believe that. It's like, okay, well, that we're still doing the right thing then. And then as he goes, there's various characters, there's various characters that go through in this story that do help him open his eyes to what's really going on, and not putting blind faith in his government.
And certainly test, his conviction that the ends justify the means, which is, I think, what Rhys Ifans' character as Corbin would kind of probably suggest his mantra is.
Yeah, and Corbin, O'Brien isn't per se a real person. He's an amalgamation of various higher ups in the security industry. Even O'Brien is the it's a little bit of a nod to George Orwell's 1984.
Exactly.
With O'Brien being the leader of the higher up in the thought police.
Exactly.
There is the scene where
talks to him on the massive wall monitor. It was going to say if there's any, Stone does.
It's pretty heavy-handed.
I was going to say if Big Brother is watching you as an allegory, it basically bludgeons you around the head with it, but it's nothing if not effective as the final moment where
it is the driving force.
Where he just nonchalantly assures Snowden that he is utterly familiar with Lindsay's sex life.
Yeah, and knows far too much about it because he is, the implication is he's been watching everything.
Exactly, the entire time.
Yeah, which is and then you've got Nicolas Cage's character who does start to question like you were saying about you don't have to like the government to be able to do he created things for the government and then they were repurposed,
perverted, and
to its own means, which we do see mirrored in Snowden's work. When he goes to Japan, he creates. The film states that he creates on his own, which is up for debate, a backup system, which is then repurposed as a dragnet for personal information of private citizens.
Exactly. So I mean, like, all that aside, I think one of the main questions I sort of have, because I mean, like, the way the movies are crafted, and we see the trajectory of Snowden's character beautifully, and we see the loyalties torn between his desire to impress Corbyn and his love towards Lindsay, who I have to say beautifully played by Shailene Woodley.
Yeah,
very wonderfully understated performance. As with a lot of these movies, the concerned girlfriend, she doesn't get a lot to do, but with what she is given, she takes it and runs with it. But
yeah, and Lindsay Mills is a very she was brought up after the Snowden leaks happened, and her character was torn apart. There's a lot of things stating that she was a stripper to try and demean her and devalue her as a person, and to kind of besmirch Snowden's character himself. She was a fairly outgoing person on social media, which is a great departure from Snowden being a very insular and private person.
I suppose, like, the big question I sort of have about this movie, apart from the fact that it's made competently, it's shot very, very well. It harks back to that old school Stone cinematography style of not cleaving to a single format. He'll use still photos if he needs to. He'll shoot on grain. He'll shoot in black and white. He'll do 16mm, 35mm. He'll crop pictures and shots and everything like that to get his message across. And especially in a movie like this, where the theme is so hardcore on surveillance, a lot of the footage is shot in pretty shitty quality, but it lends itself then to that air of suspicion and paranoia and everything. But I guess what I want to know is, did this movie actually tell us anything we didn't already know?
Well, that's the thing. Like,
and that's kind of like what stops me from, praising it as an incredible movie. Is it a return to form for Oliver Stone? Yeah, kind of. It's certainly not as shit as Savages, which was an abomination of a film.
That was horrendous.
But it still lacks that kind of fire and brimstone, sort of Oliver Stone filmmaking of old, like where JFK, this is a fucking conspiracy, and I'm going to educate y'all on like what this is about. Or Nixon, like, I'm going to give you the inside goss on what it was really like during his presidency. Or, Platoon or 4th of July or any of those movies, where it's like, you think your soldiers are heroes, well, guess what? They weren't, and also the government fucked them. Like, and Snowden, like a lot of his recent movies, it's just seems like it's very passive biographical storytelling. So, I think
I have a suspicion with that. Like, is it because we are too close to this? Like, as a society, where this is only 3 years ago that this has happened. Is this because we both you and I, Damian, we're very we like to keep up with these sort of events in the world. So we're not, it's chance the average person who may not know who Snowden was, who doesn't need to be educated on these things, would this age better in the fact of 10 years from now? Would someone be able to look at that and go, oh, well, I understand where, what's happened. I now have a clearer thing of just, oh, yes, and leaks happened in the NSA and it caused yada, yada, yada to occur. as we would have heard in, Vietnam, that, oh yes, they were treated poorly, but you don't know to the extent, oh yes, Wall Street is corrupt. They're all greedy people. You don't know until, you watch Wall Street, that sort of insight into that world. Are we just too involved in this already to be able to see it with eyes that may have, that would see this as bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, I do think you are right in that sense. It is symptomatic of the age that we live in. There is a globalization of information. It is instantaneous in its reach. And perhaps I just don't think that maybe, documentaries, for sure, as we saw in Citizen 4, that was a bombshell, of a film. That was just a, tightly coiled 120 minutes of just perfect filmmaking that actually chilled me to my core more than any other thriller I've watched in years. But I wonder if narrative filmmaking actually has the ability to deliver the exposés that it used to. Because back in the day, because internet didn't exist and all that sort of stuff, you didn't have the ready access to information that we do now. Back in the day, if you say this happened 20 years ago or something like that, and someone said Snowden, and it's like, who's that? Oh, some bloke I read about in the newspaper. Like, you couldn't go and fact check that shit on Google or anything like that. So a movie such as this would be a window into these behind the scenes moments. Whereas now, I think, I don't know if people are I wouldn't say more well informed, because we know for a fact that a lot of goddamn people aren't, vis-a-vis current American elections and everything like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think people are shocked less, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there is,
and it's the nature of privacy as well, that Facebook has kind of softened us up and desensitized us to the notion of dissemination of personal information.
Yeah, it's
things that we post on Facebook now, people wouldn't be caught dead making public, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, I guess the next, the closest thing to sort of, Facebook and all of that, and showing your, stating your beliefs and all of that, at a dinner party, and you would never talk about politics at the table with a group of friends, because it could get too divisive, and nowadays we throw it around so easily. Sign this petition. Oh, I think this is horrendous. Did you hear what he had to say? He grabbed what? That sort of thing. That we want to. Yeah, we're freer with our thoughts, our minds, and I guess we to a certain extent we're more okay with the price that we're paying for that.
Yeah, we live in a performative culture. We live in a world where reality TV is king, and we basically said, look, we love performing and we love watching these people, perform as they live their lives, as a kind of meta version of performance. So society basically, through Facebook, through Periscope, through Twitter, through Facebook live streaming, through YouTube and everything like that, basically said, here are some tools, go out, perform, live. Put your lives out there for general consumption. We're all performers now, basically.
Yeah, we're wanting to share ourselves, but we also want to learn more about others.
Exactly.
I think we're far more curious of even the mundane. That we'll seek it out. We'll follow. At the end of a day, we'll watch a vlog of a YouTuber telling them about their day. and will be entertained by that.
And for some reason, people are fascinated by that. And I mean, like, I'm not kidding around. There's vlogs that I watch, and it's just people talking about shit they did throughout the day, and it's just like, why am I watching this? But it's that kind of I mean, it is what Zuckerberg wanted. In the end, he said he wanted to break down the barriers of communication. He wanted to open the world up. He wanted everyone to be able to talk to everyone, regardless of where they lived and what they did. And so I think it's just it's weird. Like with the Snowden hacks and everything like that. It's like people were outraged, but also not that outraged.
Well, it was so there was the
it was more like
last year there was the John Oliver bit where last week tonight with John Oliver he actually went to see Snowden in Russia, and he a lot of he surveyed people and got their stuff about not wanting do you know who Snowden is? Do you understand that the government is watching you? And they kind of were like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But then he talked about it in terms that the terms of like dick pics.
That's right. Yes, I remember that interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want the public? Do you want the government to see your dick? Basically, he brought it down to, and people got outraged.
It was a beautiful moment having Snowden actually describe all the different NSA programs and all the different ways in which they could access your dick pics.
Yeah. So some places would be able to retrieve, if you send an email of your dick pic, they've got that.
Yeah.
Because they've grabbed that along the way, or
never mind. Just grab that dick along the way.
They'll let you do anything when you're the government.
I was going to say, God forbid. I mean, the number of pussy pics that would be getting grabbed by the NSA if Trump got into president.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's not even the government; it's also Snapchat and stuff like that. We don't get to see that after we see it. But that's kept somewhere.
Yeah,
and the people in Snapchat, they may not now, but they did have the repository, which they could just easily grab these out, which is crazy. That we allow people to do that by idly clicking,
just ticking
the terms and conditions,
ticking a box that says accept,
and that's what we do. And I think we just don't think that that's the price that we have to pay now. That we believe our dick pics are, our nudes are in a safe place, that we can that others aren't going to mess with our idyllic world that we are now in.
It was funny because I remember Seth Meyers at the White House Correspondents' Dinner a few years ago, where he was talking about the Patriot Act and all these other horrifyingly encroaching laws that politicians and congressmen had voted into power, and he said, "I don't think you read bills anyway. I think you vote for these bills the same way the rest of us accept updated terms and conditions on iTunes." Just pages upon pages of information, and if you want to read it, it'll tell you exactly how they are violating your personal freedoms. But I want to send cat pictures now.
Yeah, and I think it was the as portrayed by Zachary Quinto's character in the film, the media got more excited about these leaks than the public did.
Yeah,
purely because they are the ones who do read through these things. They pass through this information. They see the full amount, and then they're pursuing the truth. It's probably why Spotlight was so successful, because it showed journalists pursuing that truth at whatever means.
It actually just showed journalists being actual journalists. There wasn't anything romantic about it. They fucking knuckled down and researched and read boring shit that no one else wanted to read, and then at the end blew everything wide open. It's not it's not a glamorous job, really.
Yeah, and and
as we see, in this movie, even if it is dramatized, there's a lot of danger, adherent to that.
I mean, it's hard not to bring this to the current, American election, because there is now this like media versus government and, or potential government that is happening, and this sort of war against the truth and the truth.
Nice reference.
And it's just, and this is what is being grappled with on a, it's probably more subtle than the privacy of it. When they take the story to the Guardian, and then they need to wait until the conversation with the actual White House, and Quinto's character putting his foot down, going, listen, it doesn't matter whether the government says it's okay or not for you to publish this. We're doing this whether you're behind us or not.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's
this truth needs to be out.
It's that moment where he actually just says, be a fucking journalist for once. It's just fair enough.
Yeah, that's one of the things you don't... Yeah, this is... it's a very much like a Woodward and Bernstein sort of thing in Watergate. This is blowing things open, letting the story be known, letting the public know whether they really care about it or not. The fact that they now have the power to, the power of this information is enough.
It is that, divorce from reality that, fiction provides us, that kind of maybe lessened the impact of, what the revelations were in the film itself. Because, I mean, like, we've been watching films for years, where it's just like, government's going out of control with surveillance. They can watch you at any point. I mean, like, there was that old, I'm trying to remember the film with it had Gene Hackman and Will Smith.
Enemy of the
State. Yeah, back in the 90s or something like that. They were saying the government's watching us at all times, and I was like, holy shit, that's some fantasy right there.
Yeah, it is now no longer fiction.
I think that's the whole thing. I think, like, that the reason that I feel Citizen 4 as a documentary is a far more effective method of getting across this information is because there is no artifice around it. There is no, flashy graphics to, represent, a beam of light going from one computer to another, so you can just enjoy the pyrotechnics the spectacle of it all. Citizen 4 is just 90 minutes of Snowden sitting in a chair in a dingy hotel room on a grainy camera, basically saying, there's some serious shit going down, and this is what it is, and you guys need to be way more scared than you actually are.
Yeah,
and the lack of artifice is what makes it so much more impactful.
And him, putting the, having that attention to detail. There's that, there's that brief scene of, there's an SD card or like still in the laptop when he's giving out more information. Because he's giving it in waves, basically. And it's just like, you need to mark these down. You can't have this just idly by. Let's, this is important. This, you guys need to take care of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because he does care, in, following on from that, in interviews, this is a man who does care about security, about privacy. There's the thing of, covering up the camera of the laptop with a Band-Aid because someone could be watching. I believe, I think things of like Zuckerberg does that.
Exactly.
He cuts off his mic in his laptop and he covers up his laptop. This is stuff that can happen. From a remote location.
I was going to ask, have you covered your camera up?
Not at the moment.
No, neither have I, actually.
But that's only because I haven't found the right tape that looks that will blend in with my Mac, which is pretentious as fuck.
I was going to say, It's purely aesthetics. It's like, I want to be able to protect myself, but in a way that looks good at the same time.
Yeah, I have to look at this. This is where I do my work. I want to make sure it looks good.
I was going to say it's protecting my identity, but God, it's an eyesore.
Yeah.
Which, funnily enough, is what I imagine most people would just be like. It's like, here are the things that you can do, as Snowden and X numbers of, other, tech industry professionals have told us. Like, these are the things that you can do to protect your identity, to protect yourself from, being monitored as viciously as we are at the moment. And everyone's like, it's hard, though.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like,
like one of the tips that he's given is like, take apart your phone and disconnect the internal microphone, because that can get hacked into.
Exactly.
And then the only way that you can then use the phone with speaking into it and having phone calls is by then plugging in an external microphone, like your Apple headphones and all of that. And it's like, that sounds like so much work.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what you got to do now.
Yeah. It's like most people are like, pretty tech phobic anyway. So they're just like, do I void my warranty if I do that? What if I want a new one that's pink and it's nice? Like, they won't let me get one now because I did a thing. It's just like, all right, well, it's a lot of work, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like he sort of seems to. He says at the end, in his final interview at the end, he's just like, what do you think will happen if nothing happens? And he says, like, eventually people will demand change and rise up to try and make a difference. But part of me is wondering exactly what it's going to take, on a civilian level for people to really, really actually care about some sort of, change, be it like legislative or, like an actual like technological movement towards ensuring greater privacy. Yeah.
So, and it's, there was the attack in San Bernardino of domestic terrorism, and then there was the big thing with the FBI needing to gain access to those iPhones of the individuals involved, and Apple put its foot down and said, no, you can't have. We're not going to give you that back door.
Exactly.
We're not going to create this precedent. It wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Because as soon as one thing is, as soon as this is a reason, you'll find other way less important reasons.
Yeah, and they could have done it, and they were able to do it without Apple, but they needed that. It was the precedent that they needed. That was the important thing about this, and it wasn't the people that did it, but it's, it's a private company that had to stand up for civil liberties.
Yeah, but I also wonder if like standing up for civil liberties is actually just standing up for shareholders and a healthy fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's still going to be financially motivated because at the end of the day, someone says, "Oh, you hacked in, you let them hack into our phone." Yeah, I'm going to make sure you have a really bad loss this year.
Yeah, and that's crazy. But that's the most recent instance of someone standing up for that sort of privacy. And it's like, whoa, that's like, after the leaks, there was the outrage of, I believe it's Prism that that was collecting the information from Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Skype, all of those places, collecting the data, no matter how large or small it was. And there was that, that sort of crackdown on it. The Freedom Act last year that actually, specified what actual relevant information was, that it actually had to be targeted. It couldn't be just this huge dragnet. What's it going to take for us as private citizens to put our foot down and go, no, this isn't enough? And is it going to be towards a government body? Is it going to be to the private companies? How much information are we willing to give to an app that will until we say no, this is enough? like I believe I have an app that allows me to, if I have taken part in a DNA test, that I can put my DNA into that app,
right?
And it can be held on record, along with my, where I'm going. I've got the Moves app that kind of logs in my where I go, where I stop, how long I spend there, basic, the basic metadata sort of thing. But it's an actual app that I kind of can actually see. It tracks my sleep, tracks my, walking. Like I've given all of this up. My identity is very much within the internet itself. But where's that line going to be drawn? What am I not willing to give to the world before I go, whoa, you're getting way too far on this?
It's a question that I think is still up in the air, and I think that the movie couldn't answer, and so it didn't try to. Even Citizen 4, the documentary, it couldn't answer that question, because I don't know. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just we'll wake up one day and everything will have changed and it'll be too late, and we're like, oh, what, really? Too late. All right, never mind.
Yeah, we're kind of going into, an episode of Black Mirror.
Exactly.
Sort of
well, yeah.
I mean, the signs have been there previously, with David Cameron and all of that. So wouldn't be the first time we've treaded into that.
Exactly. I mean, I was going to say, pig fucking is a slippery slope towards endangerment of personal privacy. But I mean, you look at Black Mirror or something like that. You see the episode, the complete history of you with Toby Kebbell, as you put the implant in your brain, you can replay your own memories. I mean, they're already developing technology where you can actually put a camera in your eye and record everything you see. I mean, this is now. There's no sort of sci-fi, phantasm about any of this. This shit's actually happening.
Yeah, it's as we're saying, the things like an Enemy of the State is now, this is now reality.
Yeah, and I think maybe
science fiction is now non-fiction.
Yeah, we've been sort of subjected to so much fictional nonsense of the way things could be in the future, that it never occurs to us that maybe that shit actually could happen, and now it has. And I don't think we I think maybe we just haven't realized, or just the notions of reductions of privacy that are happening right now. We kind of movies have introduced us to that over decades, and so it doesn't even shock us anymore. Someone says this is happening, and we're like, oh yeah, oh well, fair enough, yeah. I saw that in Strange Days back in 1995. Sure.
Yeah. So is Stone still doing what Stone does, but we've changed now? He's stayed the same. To us now, it feels safe.
Exactly. I think he resolutely has changed. I think what we regard as violations of personal liberty are different to what he thinks, because he has the same opinion of it as he did back in the 70s and 80s. And
he's almost reluctant to have changed the world through his films. There was a lot of stuff that came up with JFK, a lot of stuff that had to get released to kind of quell, public intrigue. And that's the thing. It was public intrigue that it had to, a lot of documents had to get let out. A lot of, but I guess the whole conspiracy of the JFK assassination, they had to let out LBJ recordings that he had, because there was that implication from the public that he may have had something to do with that assassination to get into power.
Exactly.
Which is a crazy thing. So that is the power that the public has had in the past.
Exactly.
So what has the public been able to do nowadays to force the hand of the government?
You see it in certain ways. You see it in certain facets. Everything to do with the police shootings in America. That is citizens in action.
Yep.
Forcing a socio and geopolitical difference on like all levels of government. There is a change being affected. It is a very slow fucking change, but change is being affected. But I think it's a different kind of justice. I mean, there's very few grey lines when it comes to innocent people getting murdered by officers of the law. That's very clean cut and dry. Whereas things to do with this kind of outrage can often be sort of offset by saying, well, you asked for it, or it's not as bad as all that, or you're already posting photos of yourself anyway, so what's the beef? It's a bit more of a grey area, and I don't have an answer. I don't think Stone has an answer. Maybe even Snowden doesn't have an answer at the moment. But I think it really does just remain to be seen.
Yeah, it's almost like now Snowden is in his exile, in Russia. That he's now just, he's got freedom press that he does. Now he likes to advocate for security of private citizens, but he's really it's a reactive sort of thing because he's now out of the loop.
Exactly. So I don't think any big change that comes, it's not going to come from him. He's done his part. He's not able really, given his circumstances, to do anything else. It's going to be the next one. It's going to be the next Snowden that drops some new bombshell. I think.
And hopefully they too have an altruistic, ideal set in order to do this. That it is the next whistleblower is more Snowden than a more treasonous person or a showboater,
an opportunistic
like Assange.
Sort of, yeah.
Which and it should be noted that Assange did have a large part to play in getting Snowden out of Hong Kong.
Exactly. No, he did. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's not all bad. He did help, a fellow truth seeker. Real quick because we're getting through this today. But just Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character himself, how he portrayed Snowden is really on point, to the point that a lot of times, particularly in the hotel, he looks exactly like Snowden.
No.
And it was hard to pass out through who is this, because being a living biography, there's always that chance of the real person coming into it,
Exactly.
When's the switch going to happen? When's the cameo going to happen? Like Wolf of Wall Street, the real guy was in the film as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you had that opportunity to do it. It was. You had to do those double takes. Yeah. With how Levitt fit into the role.
The hotel stuff was done excellently. It was done very, very well indeed. And I think it is telling, just to finish up, that like the best parts of Snowden were actually their recreations of Citizen 4.
Yeah, because there's such a wealth of footage there that they could just, all right, let's put it side by side and let's recreate it.
Exactly. I mean, that was
everything else is up in the air.
Yeah, and it was verbatim what happened, but it was as dramatic as any fictional script or movie. I mean, in Citizen 4, when the phone rings unexpectedly, that's actually like a legit, thrilling and terrifying moment, which the movie replicates, and you kind of assume that, sure, the phone rang, the standard spooks on the other end, trope. It's been done a million times before, and it's that thing, I think, just to sort of wrap up that line that we were going on. It's the narrative, it's the fictional remove. You know, that we have the history of, you know, devices like that being used to build tension, to, you know, have a moment of, you know, fear and thrill and everything like that. But like in the doco, there's no artifice. It did happen, and it was terrifying. And so that that's why I just think it's a more effective version of telling this story.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I saw the Snowden first, and then I went to see Citizen 4. You know, sat right down and you know, rented it out on the computer, and I was like, all right, and it is a better telling of the story because it is as it happens. And it is a better thing. Not to say that Snowden isn't a bad film.
No,
it is a good Stone film. It is a good film to for the general public to digest.
If anything, it's a good accompaniment piece to Citizen 4. And if people see Snowden and then want to go back and watch the documentary, then the movie has achieved something very important in my mind.
Yeah, and it is to further gain more knowledge in these things, to then, you know, well, what is Prism, you know, and then to go into that, and then to do your own searching to explore those avenues that are prefaced in the film itself. This does err on the side of Snowden being a hero, because that's just how the narrative was bound to go. I don't think it would have been a compelling film if it showed him as more of a villain, which it could have done. But yeah, it gives you that ability to look further and to start questioning things. That's probably the big takeaway of you know, Snowden as a person, and the film itself is to just question private companies, what their intention is, question your government. Are they looking out for you as a person? It's no matter where you are, you know, whether you're here in Australia, whether you're in the United States, it is an important thing for us to trust. Well, not to blindly trust our government.
No, but I mean, don't take you know, anything for granted, and certainly don't take the government for granted as being a benevolent organisation. They have motives the same as anyone else does.
Yeah, we all do. It's not a bad thing. You just need to question that.
Exactly.
You know,
don't accept it on blind faith.
Exactly. So that's this episode for this week. We're back, folks.
It's wrapped up. Put a bow on it. Ready for season 2, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. So
bigger and better things.
Next time around, we're actually going to give a crack at the Neon Demon,
the new Wendy Refn film,
which has been out internationally, you know, in various places, but
for a while, but is just come out in Australia today.
So
always
looking forward to that.
Always a polarizing filmmaker. Always gets booed about as much as he gets applauded at festivals for his films. So we're going to watch this guy try and tackle the fashion industry and then somehow link it with pagan vampires.
I'm looking forward to it.
So am I. Until next week, folks.